You're eating oatmeal for breakfast, you snack on granola, you blend fruit smoothies, you switch to brown rice. You buy low-fat yogurt because it says healthy on the label. So why is your insulin still high? Why are your fasting numbers stubborn? Why are cravings still intense? Why does belly fat refuse to budge? Here's the uncomfortable truth. Some foods marketed as healthy can quietly keep your insulin elevated, especially if you're insulin resistant, pre-diabetic, or trying to improve metabolic health. Now let's be clear. Insulin is not the enemy. It's a vital hormone that helps move glucose into your cells. The problem isn't insulin itself, it's chronically high insulin, triggered over and over again throughout the day. And many of the biggest triggers aren't donuts or soda. They're the foods you've been told are smart choices. In this guide, we're going to break down 5 common, healthy foods that may be working against you if your goal is to lower insulin. You'll learn why they spike insulin more than you think, who needs to be cautious, and what to eat instead without extreme dieting. This isn't about fear, it's about understanding how your body responds, because once you see how insulin really works, you'll realize something powerful. Healthy marketing doesn't always mean metabolically healthy. Let's dive in. Why lowering insulin matters. Before we talk about food. Before we go after specific foods, we need to understand something important. Insulin is not bad. In fact, without insulin, you wouldn't survive. It's the hormone that allows glucose, sugar, to move from your bloodstream into your cells where it's used for energy. Every time you eat carbohydrates and even protein to a smaller degree, insulin rises. That's normal. The real issue isn't insulin. The issue is how often and how long insulin stays elevated. What happens when insulin stays high? When insulin levels are chronically elevated, your body becomes less sensitive to it, insulin resistance. Your pancreas has to produce more and more. Fat burning is reduced. Fat storage increases. Cravings become stronger. Energy becomes unstable. High insulin essentially tells your body, store energy, don't burn it. That's helpful in survival situations. It's not helpful when insulin is elevated all day, every day. The modern food pattern problem. Most people today eat carb-heavy breakfasts, snack mid-morning, have a carb-dominant lunch. Snack again, eat another carb-heavy dinner. That means insulin is stimulated repeatedly from morning to night. Even if the foods are labeled whole grain, organic, or natural, the insulin response still happens. For someone who is metabolically healthy and active, this may not be a major issue, but if you are insulin resistant, pre-diabetic, managing type 2 diabetes, struggling with stubborn weight, experiencing constant cravings, then repeated insulin stimulation becomes a problem. The key insight: you don't lower insulin by starving yourself. You lower insulin by reducing constant stimulation, controlling carb load, avoiding liquid sugars, increasing protein and fiber, giving your body breaks between meals. And that's where certain healthy foods can sabotage progress. They're not junk food, but they can quietly keep insulin elevated more than you realize. Let's start with one that surprises almost everyone: flavored low-fat yogurt. Food number 1. Flavored low-fat yogurt, the low-fat trap. Let's start in the dairy aisle. Yogurt has one of the healthiest reputations in the grocery store. It's associated with probiotics, protein, gut health, and weight loss. And plain yogurt absolutely can be a smart choice. But flavored low-fat yogurt? That's a different story, especially if you're trying to lower insulin. Why it seems like a smart choice? At first glance, it checks all the boxes. High in protein, contains probiotics, marketed as low-fat, often labeled light or healthy, convenient and portion-controlled. For someone trying to make better choices, it feels like a win. But here's what most people don't realize: the hidden insulin trigger. When manufacturers remove fat from yogurt, they remove flavor and creaminess. To make it taste good again, they usually add sugar, fruit puree, fruit juice concentrate, honey, syrups. Some small containers of flavored yogurt contain 15 to 25 grams of sugar, sometimes as much as a candy bar. Even if the label says real fruit, your body still sees glucose and fructose. And here's the key. Sugar plus minimal fat plus quick digestion equals rapid glucose rise implies insulin spike. Why this matters for insulin resistance. If you're insulin resistant, your body already struggles to manage glucose efficiently. A sweetened yogurt eaten alone, especially as a snack, can raise blood sugar quickly, trigger a strong insulin response, lead to a crash a few hours later, increase hunger and cravings. Low-fat products also digest faster, meaning glucose enters the bloodstream more rapidly compared to full-fat options. It's not that yogurt is bad. It's that added sugar plus low-fat plus isolated consumption can amplify the insulin response. A simple comparison. Flavored low-fat yogurt, higher sugar. Faster digestion, stronger insulin spike. Plain Greek yogurt, higher protein, lower sugar, slower digestion, more stable insulin response. Add your own, fresh berries, chia seeds, walnuts, cinnamon. Now you control the sugar load. The bigger lesson. The label may say healthy, but your pancreas doesn't read marketing, it responds to carbohydrates. If lowering insulin is your goal, flavored low-fat yogurt is one of the easiest swaps you can make. And the next food on this list is even more common, especially at breakfast. Food number 2, instant oatmeal. Now let's talk about a breakfast classic. Oatmeal has been promoted for decades as a heart-healthy, cholesterol-lowering superfood, and in many contexts, oats can absolutely be part of a healthy diet. But if your goal is to lower insulin, especially in the morning, instant oatmeal may not be your best choice. Why it's marketed as healthy. Oatmeal sounds like the perfect start to the day. Whole grain, high in fiber. Associated with heart health, recommended by major health organizations. Warm, filling, and comforting. And compared to sugary cereal, it seems like a big upgrade. But here's the nuance most people miss. The processing problem. Not all oats are the same. There's a major difference between steel-cut oats, rolled oats, instant oats. Instant oatmeal is highly processed. It's pre-cooked, dried, and cut into smaller pieces so it cooks quickly. That processing breaks down the grain structure, making it easier and faster to digest. And when carbs digest quickly, glucose rises quickly. When glucose rises quickly, insulin spikes quickly. Add in the flavored packets, which often contain added sugar, and you've got an even stronger insulin response. Morning insulin resistance makes it worse. Many people are more insulin resistant in the morning. That means your body requires more insulin to handle the same carbohydrate load compared to later in the day. So when you eat a bowl of instant oatmeal, especially a large one, first thing in the morning, blood sugar rises rapidly. Insulin surges. Energy may crash mid-morning. Hunger returns sooner than expected. That can trigger a second snack and another insulin spike. Portion size is the hidden factor. Even plain oats can become problematic when portions are large. A big bowl of oatmeal can easily contain 40 to 60 grams of carbohydrates. Minimal protein, minimal fat. That's a significant insulin trigger, especially when eaten alone. How to make oats more insulin-friendly. If you enjoy oatmeal and don't want to eliminate it completely, modify it. Choose steel-cut oats instead of instant. Keep portions moderate. Add protein, Greek yogurt, protein powder, or eggs on the side. Add healthy fats, chia seeds, flaxseed, nuts. Avoid sugary flavor packets, or consider shifting to a protein-focused breakfast instead, like eggs and vegetables, which produces a much lower insulin response. Oatmeal can be heart-healthy, but heart-healthy doesn't automatically mean insulin-friendly. If your fasting glucose is high or you're struggling with insulin resistance, your healthy breakfast may be the very thing keeping insulin elevated. And the next food on this list is even more deceptive because it's liquid. Food number 3, fruit smoothies. Now we get to one of the most misunderstood health foods of all. Fruit smoothies are often seen as the ultimate clean choice. They're colorful, natural, plant-based, and full of vitamins. Many people replace breakfast or lunch with a smoothie, believing they're doing their body a favor. But if you're trying to lower insulin, smoothies can quietly work against you. Why smoothies feel so healthy? They check all the psychological boxes, made from real fruit. No added sugar, dairy-free or plant-based, packed with nutrients, convenient and portable. And compared to soda or milkshakes, they seem unquestionably better. But here's the key issue. Liquid carbohydrates hit your bloodstream faster than solid food. What blending really does. Whole fruit contains fiber. That fiber slows digestion and moderates the rise in blood sugar. When you blend fruit, you break down the fiber structure. Even though the fiber is technically still present, it no longer slows digestion the same way chewing whole fruit does. Now combine that with typical smoothie ingredients. Banana, mango, pineapple, dates, honey, fruit juice as a base. It's easy for one smoothie to contain the equivalent of 3 to 5 servings of fruit in a single glass. Would you normally sit down and eat 4 pieces of fruit at once? Probably not, but when it's blended and drinkable, it happens in minutes. The insulin impact. Here's what happens physiologically. Rapid glucose absorption, significant insulin release, minimal chewing, less satiety signaling, liquid calories that don't satisfy hunger as long. For someone with insulin resistance, this can mean a sharp insulin spike, energy crash, increased cravings later, elevated fasting glucose the next morning if consumed at night. Even green smoothies aren't automatically safe if they contain multiple high-sugar fruits. When smoothies are most problematic, they're especially challenging when consumed on an empty stomach, used as a quick breakfast, drunk quickly, used as a snack between meals. That combination creates a fast, strong insulin response. How to make a smoother choice. If you truly enjoy smoothies, adjust them. Limit fruit to 1 small serving. Avoid fruit juice bases. Add protein powder. Add healthy fats like nut butter or chia seeds. Include leafy greens for fiber. Or, better yet, eat whole fruit instead of drinking it. Whole fruit produces a slower, more controlled glucose response. Smoothies aren't automatically unhealthy. But when your goal is lowering insulin, large fruit-heavy smoothies can function more like a sugar delivery system than a metabolic health tool. And the next healthy food might be sitting in your pantry right now, marketed as the perfect crunchy snack. Food number 4, granola and healthy cereal. Walk down the breakfast aisle and you'll see words like natural, whole grain, high fiber, heart healthy, made with real nuts. Granola and healthy cereals have mastered the art of looking nutritious. But when it comes to lowering insulin, they can be surprisingly problematic. Why they seem like a smart choice. Granola often contains oats, nuts, seeds, dried fruit. On paper, that sounds excellent. Cereal boxes highlight whole grains and fiber content. Compared to brightly colored sugary cereals, granola feels like the responsible adult choice. The issue isn't the ingredients individually, it's the concentration and the sugar load. The hidden sugar and carb density. Most granola contains honey, brown sugar, maple syrup, agave, dried fruit. Even small servings can contain 20 to 30 grams of carbohydrates, sometimes more. And here's the problem. Very few people measure the serving size. What looks like a modest bowl is often 2 or 3 servings. Now add milk, another carbohydrate source, maybe some fruit on top, and you've created a triple carb combination. Grain plus sugar plus lactose plus fruit. That's a significant insulin trigger. Why it's easy to overeat. Granola is calorie-dense and compact. Unlike bulky vegetables or protein-rich foods, it doesn't take up much space, so it's easy to eat quickly and in large amounts. And because it's crunchy and slightly sweet, it stimulates reward pathways in the brain, making portion control harder. The result? A rapid glucose rise followed by a strong insulin response. For someone trying to lower insulin or improve insulin sensitivity, that repeated morning spike can slow progress. But it has fiber? Yes, many granolas contain fiber. But fiber doesn't cancel out high carbohydrate load, especially when sugar is added. Whole grain doesn't mean low insulin impact. It just means less processed than refined white flour. If total carbohydrate is high, insulin still rises. What to choose instead? If you enjoy something crunchy, have a small handful of nuts instead. Try unsweetened coconut flakes. Choose chia pudding made with unsweetened almond milk. Opt for an egg-based breakfast for a lower insulin response. If you're buying cereal, look carefully at total carbohydrates and added sugars, not just marketing claims. The bigger lesson: granola isn't junk food, but it's closer to dessert than most people realize. When your goal is lowering insulin, even natural sugar counts. And the final food on this list is one that surprises almost everyone because it's often recommended as the healthier option. Food number 5, brown rice and whole grain bread. Now for the one that surprises almost everyone. You switched from white rice to brown rice. You chose whole grain bread instead of white bread. You read labels carefully, so how could this possibly be a problem? Here's the key distinction. Whole grain is better than refined grain, but it's still carbohydrate dense. Your body doesn't see whole grain, it sees a long chain of glucose molecules. And when your goal is lowering insulin, total carbohydrate load matters more than the marketing label. Why they're recommended. Brown rice and whole grain bread are often promoted because they contain more fiber than refined versions, have a lower glycemic index, retain more nutrients, support heart health. And compared to white bread or white rice, they are better choices nutritionally. But better doesn't mean low insulin impact. The insulin reality. Brown rice is still primarily starch. Whole grain bread is still primarily starch. When you eat a large serving, especially without enough protein or fat, glucose rises. And when glucose rises, insulin rises. For someone metabolically healthy and active, that rise may be manageable. But for someone who is insulin resistant, pre-diabetic, managing type 2 diabetes, trying to lose stubborn abdominal fat, that carb load can still keep insulin elevated longer than ideal. Portion size is the silent trigger. 1 cup of cooked brown rice contains around 45 grams of carbohydrates. 2 slices of whole grain bread can contain 30 to 40 grams. Now imagine pairing that with fruit, a sugary drink, a snack later. Insulin stimulation becomes frequent and layered throughout the day. This is what keeps insulin chronically elevated, not necessarily one bad food, but cumulative load. Whole grain is not equal to low carb. This is the misconception. Whole grain improves nutrient density and fiber content, which is good. But if the goal is lowering insulin, especially for reversing insulin resistance, quantity matters more than grain refinement. Even high-quality carbs raise insulin. What to do instead? You don't necessarily have to eliminate these foods completely. Instead, reduce portion sizes. Pair carbs with protein and fiber. Try cauliflower rice occasionally. Use lettuce wraps instead of bread. Build meals around protein and vegetables first. Shift the plate so grains become a smaller side, not the foundation. The core message. Brown rice and whole grain bread are healthier than refined versions. But healthier does not automatically mean insulin-friendly. If lowering insulin is your goal, the focus isn't just whole versus white. It's how much, how often, and what you pair it with. Now let's bring everything together with the final takeaway and a clear action plan. Final takeaway plus action steps. Here's the bottom line. Just because a food is labeled healthy doesn't mean it's automatically friendly to your insulin. Many common choices, flavored low-fat yogurt, instant oatmeal, fruit smoothies, granola, and even brown rice or whole grain bread can quietly keep insulin elevated, especially if you're insulin resistant or struggling with blood sugar control. The good news? You don't have to completely eliminate carbs or tasty foods to improve your insulin sensitivity. You just need to make smarter choices, control portions, and pair carbs with protein, fiber, and healthy fats. Small adjustments compound into big results over time. Action steps to start today. 1. Pick one food from the avoid list and swap it for a better alternative tonight. 2. Focus on protein-first meals with plenty of non-starchy vegetables. 3. Control carb portions and avoid liquid sugar. 4. Space your meals to give insulin a chance to return to baseline. 5. Track your response for the next week. Notice energy levels, cravings, and fasting glucose patterns. Even implementing one of these changes tonight can set you on a path to better insulin control over the coming weeks. Small, consistent improvements add up faster than you might expect. Engagement. Tip: share in the comments which healthy food surprised you the most. Was it the yogurt, the smoothie, or the granola? Your story can help others avoid the same pitfalls. If you want more practical, science-backed strategies for lowering insulin naturally and sustainably, make sure you subscribe, follow, and turn on notifications. Remember, better mornings, lower cravings, and more stable energy start with smarter food choices, not fear or deprivation. Thank you for reading, and here's to eating. Healthy, the right way for your insulin and metabolic health.